Hello there, everybody, and today I'm going to be continuing my Superman marathon in preparation for the new Superman movie coming out this July. It's not that far away, so let's start with what's probably my favorite Superman movie of all time, Superman 2. So I'm going to be talking about the Richard Donner cut version of the movie, which was originally supposed to be what came out, but they changed a bunch of things, and instead we got a completely different Superman 2. But it wasn't until 2006 they finally revealed what Richard Donner did originally with Superman 2. And I gotta say, this cut is so much better than the original Superman 2. It is much more grounded. It feels like there's a lot of good stakes for Superman as a character. It really explores what it means for why Superman does what he does. But this time he goes up against completely different villains, General Zod and his two acolytes. So if you don't know, General Zod got sent to the Phantom Zone in the first Superman movie, and we thought that was it for them. But instead, during the whole Superman movie, while Superman was trying to stop Lex Luthor, when he threw the nuclear missile in space, the explosion caused a rift in the cosmic wave, causing Zod and his goons to be free from their Phantom Zone, and we get this one hilarious scene where we see General Zod scream, and this time he's played by Terrence Stamp. And I gotta say, Terrence Stamp as General Zod is probably my favorite part of this movie. Like, he is just loving the role. You could just tell he loves playing General Zod. But the main thing that goes on in this movie is Superman's relationship with Lois Lane. It's very complicated because Lois is starting to suspect that Clark is Superman. But Clark denies it. But when Lois tries to jump out a window, but Superman literally stops her from falling to her death, and he pretends like he's like, "What the heck did you just do, Lois?" But it isn't until later they go on a little vacation together. They go to Niagara Falls. But when a little boy accidentally jumps off the Great Wall, I'm pretty sure it's called. So sorry I didn't get the landmark right, but he falls, and while his mother paying attention for some reason, Superman, of course, comes in, saves the boy, and it causes Lois to suspect even more. But when they go in their hotel room, she basically tries to convince Clark to reveal his identity. He, of course, rejects it until Lois pulls out a gun and shoots Clark, just to prove that he's the Man of Steel. And he's like, oh, Clark Kent could have been killed. But this is where Superman does reveal to Lois that he is Superman. And he takes Lois to the Fortress of Solitude. But during all this, General Zod has arrived at Earth, and he's able to do a bunch of things that cause as much chaos as he can. He basically kills a bunch of astronauts on the moon. He walks on water like Jesus, and it surprises the fishermen. But the main thing Zod does, that he is able to break into the president's office after a tank tries to stop him. But I even like how they make fun of how the people, they say, oh, they need machines to fly. But Zod ends up breaking into the White House, taking out all the soldiers, and trying to find out where Superman is. But Superman is now given a choice at the Fortress of Solitude. When he sees his hologram of his father, he's basically given the choice that he can either give up his powers to be with Lois or stay as Superman. But he decides to make the selfish choice of leaving the Metropolis people behind and he gives up his powers. And he goes to a restaurant where he is unfortunately beat up by this dude who tries to take Clark's seat. But once Clark does see the news report of General Zod taking over Metropolis, and well, he will be, Superman decides that he must get his powers back after he realized that the world does need Superman. So Clark goes back to the fortress, and he feels he has given up, like he failed. But this is where he does find a green kryptonite, and he's able to get his powers back. I forgot to mention, Lex Luthor's back, and Gene Hackman's back as Lex Luthor, and he wants to join forces with Zod. And he was able to escape earlier in the movie through an air balloon, but he went to the Fortress of Solitude, and he ended up destroying all of the crystals there. I think that was put into this version of the movie. But when Zod does break into Metropolis, Perry White tries to stop him, but of course it goes wrong. Lois actually punches one of them, and she actually almost breaks her hand, and Jimmy almost gets killed until Superman finally shows up, mocking Zod, making fun of him. But Zod even calls him a coward, and this is where we do get a bunch of scenes where Superman fights Zod and his elites. But this is where the movie kind of just looks out of date. I know this movie was made during a different time. This was made when The Empire Strikes Back came out. But yeah, you can tell there's a lot of green screen. It doesn't really look like they're flying. But I think they did their best for they're trying to make the characters look like they can fly. But Zod does a bunch of bad things. He has his goons almost kill a bunch of people on the bus. They destroy Superman ends up throwing Zod into like a Coca-Cola sign. They destroy the Pentagon. They destroy the Statue of Liberty. They just do a whole bunch of things. And this honestly could be what inspired in later movies like Man of Steel. But this feels like somewhat of a light version of it. But Superman decides he must flee to get Zod away from attacking the people. But Zod even is proud. He calls Superman a coward. He says the infamous line, "Kneel before Zod." Hilarious line. But Zod ends up taking Lois and Lex Luthor to the Fortress of Solitude to lure Superman out. But this is where we get the biggest twist of the movie. Zod basically forces Superman to be his slave and give up his powers so he can protect the Metropolis people. But Superman's actually able to trick Zod by having Lex Luthor put in one of the kryptonite crystals into the system, and he's able to reverse it backwards, where it causes Zod and all his goons to lose their powers. And I just love, this is my favorite scene in the whole movie. Superman ends up crushing Zod's hand when he says, "Kneel." And he just crushes it, throws Zod down the pit, and Lois takes out the main girl. She's played by Sarah Douglas. Her character was a lot of fun. But she even steals like all the various like badges, and she has a thing for that. But once she gets slapped by Lois, she's gone, and the other dude ends up falling to his death, and the day is saved. But it took a lot of Superman's will just to defeat Zod and his goons. But he has to make a big choice. He can either have Lois keep his secret or not, or his secret will be out as Superman. But this is where he does the infamous fly around the earth thing. And see, people still don't like that for some reason, where he's able to reverse time. Honestly, I kind of like it because he can fix the things that he didn't, the mistakes he made. But then again, could he really do it to any villain he fights? But anyway, nitpicks aside, everything's back to normal. Lois no longer knows that Clark is Superman. General Zod and his goons are all gone. Lex is still in prison, but it ends with Superman taking out the guy from the bar earlier in the movie after he picks up pizza for Lois, and the movie ends. So that's Superman 2. This movie was fantastic. Yeah, there's some things that look out of date, but the movie was so different back then. I feel like the best scene was with Jor-El and Superman where they meet face to face and Superman gets his powers back. That was probably the best scene in the whole movie. But Christopher Reeve is amazing as Superman. I really couldn't see anyone else besides him as my favorite Superman. I can't wait to see what David Cornsweet does as Superman. I do like Henry Cavill as Superman as well. But there's so many Superman actors that I could name right now. But when I think of Superman, I think of Christopher Reeve. But Terrence Stamp is over the top as General Zod. Margot Kidder is amazing as Lois. Gene Hackman is great as Lex Luthor. Even though he's like the greedy businessman per usual, it just feels like a good, deep Superman story. Easily one of the best Superman stories out there. When I think of Superman, I definitely think of Superman 2. Honestly. And originally, in one of the scenes, they even show a scene where Superman throws his S as like a boomerang, like Batman throws a batarang. I thought that was silly. But I like how this Donner cut is a more serious version of the movie. But after Superman 2, the franchise kind of goes downhill with Superman 3 and 4. Honestly, I'm going to review both movies and release it in next week. And then we'll do Superman Returns and Man of Steel. And then we'll be ready for Superman. I can't wait to talk about more about the Superman lore. And I'll also do an animated review, of course. But I give Superman 2 a 9 out of 10. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you all next time.